Hernandez. I'm the Director and Principal at the Academies of Racine, Jersey at Agerholm, and want to welcome everybody here online to our town hall regarding the upcoming referendum. Want to welcome you guys to our brand new community room and our wonderfully brand new renovated Jersey at Agerholm campus. So welcome. I'm going to turn it over to Kim from our parent ambassador from our Parent Leadership Network to talk to you guys more about tonight. So welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kim Anderson. I'm here on behalf of the district's Parent Leadership Network. This is a network of parents throughout the district where we have representatives in all of the schools in the district to help parents give voice and be in spaces to interface with teachers, administrators, and other staff, because we're very involved parents. And we work together to make sure that all the students have the best outcomes possible. Thank you for coming tonight, and for anybody who's tuning in on Facebook. I'm here to introduce Superintendent Soren Gajewski. Thank you very much for being here to talk about our referendum. This referendum is very important to us here in Racine Unified. And we, as parent leadership, know that this money is going to be integral to the success of our district and the success of our children and our community at large. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great introduction there. Thank you guys for coming out tonight to hear about the referendum. For those of you that I have not met personally, I see a lot of familiar faces in here and some staff from the district, but I just want to share a couple of things about myself. First of all, this is my 19th year as an administrator here in Racine Unified. I started out as a Jefferson Lighthouse principal in 2006, and then was served as Mitchell's principal in 2011. And so I say that because I've been here. I have seen the ups and downs of the district and the things we've tried that have worked and things that maybe didn't work so well. And so I've been around with all of the history here. I've also been a part of this community since I was 2. In fact, lived on Romaine Avenue here, not so far away, and played baseball in the fields back here, both at Roosevelt and here at Jersted as a kid. And I have a son that's attending our RUSD schools right now. And so the future of this district is very, very important to me. This is not a district that I intend to pass through and move on to some other opportunity. This is a district that I plan to retire in and to stay as part of this community. So it matters to me that our school buildings are great, that the educational programming is great, and that our community ultimately benefits and is a thriving community in the future that we have ahead of us. So I think it's important for you to hear that, first of all. All right, let's get on and talk about the referendum, what we're asking, why we're asking, and then we'll have some time at the end for some questions. And then I know we're also doing a tour here today, and you can check out this beautiful building in its transformation from not looking like this not so long ago. So let's get started here. So, referendum on the ballot, April 1st. Right now, if you've been around the district for many years as part of this community, you know, as I mentioned, there has been some times where we haven't been so happy about our data and our success. We have, for reasons that we own and some reasons maybe we don't own, we haven't always been as successful as we want to be. But in the last few years, we are really getting our arrows pointed in the right direction. We have a lot of initiatives going on that we're seeing success. And some of the big pieces, the big highlights are a continued improvement in our graduation rate. We are almost to the state average in graduation rate, and it's the highest it's been in 15 years for sure, if not longer than that. That's good news, and that's for all of our demographic groups. All of our kids are seeing that growth. Our state report card has improved over the last 2 years. We had a long round of declining school report cards in Racine Unified, but that has been turned around over the last couple of years, and in big part to the work we've done with our youngest kids in teaching reading. We adopted the science of reading years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, looking at Janelle Decker over here. And the state has adopted that philosophy as well in terms of instruction, but we did this before. And we've seen, as our teachers have learned how to teach this new curriculum, we're seeing some great results. And we have staff that support our teachers, we have staff that support our students to make sure that our youngest kids can read and read well. And we know if they can read well when they're young, they can access the curriculum as they get older and go through our middle and high school. We know what happens, Danny knows what happens, when students enter middle school and they don't read or they can't read well. School just is not engaging for them. And so it's so important for our youngest kids to get that great foundation in reading. And we are building on that. We are absolutely seeing great results with our youngest kids. So this is going to translate to more and more success for our students in this district, and ultimately, as our kids grow, they're going to be successful adults. We want to continue this momentum. So they ask here, this is it, right, plain and simple in front, is $190 billion over the next 5 years. This is a non-recurring referendum. That simply means after 5 years, we're going to come back to you and we're going to say, well, did we live up to what we said? And you're going to tell us, yes, you did. And you're going to support us going further. Or, by then, the state of Wisconsin will have adjusted the way they're funding schools, which we'll talk about a little bit. And we will be able to not necessarily utilize referendum for these costs. So you see down there 26, 30, 38, 46, and 50 million. Why are those numbers kind of jumbled like that? We will talk about that a little bit further. There's a reason for that. So what's this for? To prevent bad things from happening, in a sense. Prevent bad things. We want to keep our kids in our academies. We want to continue that early literacy work with our students. We, in our high school students today, have an experience where they are bridged to their next spot in life. When I was in high school, you graduated, and hopefully there was somebody in your life that said, you know, you're going to college, or you're going to go do this, or you're going to do that. It was really up to the individual person. In our schools, we have support to get our students into a college or career track. That may mean college credits early, getting college credits in the technical college or in the four-year university before they even leave our schools. That way they don't have to pay for those when they go to college. And they're already experienced in those kinds of coursework. Or it may be apprenticeships, youth apprenticeships, where kids get experience in working for some of our companies, and they may choose to stay in those companies, also depending if the company's their relationship works out. My own son, who went to school here at the Real School, took advantage of one of those youth apprenticeships and is a pipe fitter today for S.C. Johnson. And he chose that route because he's a learner that he wants to work with his hands. He's a different kind of learner. And my oldest son went to a four-year university. We have lots of different kinds of learners here. We want to make sure that our kids have that bridge right into their next spot and they're not lost. We pay for that. That's stuff that's the kinds of things that we do and we want to keep. We also want to make sure we have safe schools. There's lots of things that are going on in our community, and we read about this and we hear about things that may happen over the weekend or in the summer or whatever that are not always great. And we want to make sure that that is not happening in our schools. We want to make sure that when kids walk in the door, they feel that school and learning is the focus of why they're there. We have staff in our district that we did not have 10 and 15 years ago that helps to re-regulate students, get them back on track and get them focused in the classroom. It's not easy, it's not perfect. We're talking about teenagers and preteens. That's hard for anybody. But we have staff that have relationships with students to head off major security types of issues. And we also utilize the Evolve system, whereby our students in our K-8s, you walked through it when you came through here, it's not operating, but We have those systems in our schools to prevent what we call weapons of mass destruction, not nuclear weapons, but guns from coming in our schools, and we've been very successful at doing that. Unfortunately, guns are in our environment, and we want to make sure they're not inside of our schools. We utilize our evolved system for that, and there's a cost to that. There's a cost to purchasing those machines and upkeeping them as well. We are oftentimes called upon by other districts, including nearby districts, when they run into safety issues to see what we're doing. We've gotten a lot of attention for that because we have very few significant incidents here. I always have to knock on wood though when I say that. So why are we here? We're not here because we mismanaged some money. We don't know where it went, or we purchased items that were really expensive and we mishandled them. We are here because, like the entire state of Wisconsin right now, our school funding formula has not kept up with inflation. So back in 2009, our legislature and our governor, for reasons I don't know, decoupled public school funding with inflation. So up until that point, whatever the inflation level was, public schools could assume they would be getting that same amount. So if it's 1.5% inflation rate, the school systems were getting about 1.5%. That was decoupled, and the legislature and the governor then determined at each budget what that specific amount was going to be. And as it turns out, over the last 15 years, that has accumulated to a revenue loss for Racine Unified of $50 million. I would have $50 million in my budget today for our children if that did not happen and we at least kept up with inflation. And so you see across the entire state of Wisconsin, over 200 school districts last year, which is a record, going out to referendum because they have the same gap, the same problem. This year, referendum all over the place, same reason. Kenosha Unified, just to our south, same situation. Unfortunately, their referendum did not pass. And so their superintendent is, I just talked to him today, absolutely distraught over what is going to happen to the educational programming down there. And so we begin to develop in the state of Wisconsin communities that are haves and communities that are have-nots based on whether or not their referendum passed to make up for this gap. So this is a visual that kind of shows inflation is a little more of a jagged line, but we kind of smoothed it out for the purposes of this. The difference between 2009, the actual funding we received from Wisconsin, and where inflation has been. And in fact, during the period of, well, you're very familiar with this if you've been to the grocery store lately, you know inflation has been extremely high over the past 4 or 5 years, coming down a little bit lately, but very high. During that time, that last biennial budget, not the one we're in right now, but the last one, the state of Wisconsin gave us 0 increase at the same time of the largest levels of inflation we've seen in 40-some years. So it's not Racine because we blundered something here. It is the entire state grappling with this gap. So we have to go to our community because our kids, we don't have time to wait for the politicians to figure out how to get this corrected. We have children that depend upon their experience for their future. And so we're going to our community and asking them to invest in RUSD and invest in our kids. And invest in the success that we have right now. It isn't like we're stumbling around here. We've got some good momentum. We've got good work going on that we will continue with the support of this community. So last year, my first year in this role, I was welcomed with a $34 million deficit. And we we tried to do some activities with with community. Some of you in this room are a part of this, to help us figure out how do we solve $34 million deficit and make it easy on us so we don't feel it. That's kind of a joke, but we did our best, and this is what we came up with. So we cut about $10 million in staff, and this ranged from teachers, educational assistants, administration, reduction. You also see in here we had school closures. We had a couple schools that closed, but we didn't close them like out of the blue. It was part of our master plan for facilities, part of the referendum from the last referendum. So we didn't have necessarily the uproar that Kenosha did with that, but we did save some money there. We did some benefits cuts. We had a little bit of money left over from ESSER funds that we received during the pandemic. We utilized that. You'll see up there we had deficit spending, meaning we were using leftover funds from past budgets where we could apply to this year's budget. That fund balance has been depleted. I can't utilize that going forward. And so that's also a factor that is causing us to go to referendum at this point. I also want to point out here, vacancy savings, you see $4 million in vacancy savings. That is just showing you that there's $4 million of staff that we needed to have for our children last year that I couldn't hire. The people did not exist to be hired. And that speaks to also the market right now for quality educators. So these children didn't have the services that they were either supposed to have or they had to have a different class or be pushed into another class. Some staff were never able to be hired. And so while that provided savings for us, that's not a good savings. We're not happy about that. All right. So last year, $34 million deficit. We made the cuts as we have done in the past. We find efficiencies. We did the best we can to make it the least impacting. I don't think our staff would say it wasn't impacting. I know they're feeling it. So looking ahead to next year and beyond, I can speak first about next year. Staffing costs. So I point out that vacancy savings to illustrate that the market for educators, the market for teachers and principals has changed. When I went to school to be a social studies teacher, the advisor told me, you know what, we love to have you in this program, this is at UWM, but I have to tell you, there are 500 applicants for every job. So I kind of, eyes bugged out a little bit, and I thought, I want to be a teacher, but maybe I need to take a different route. So I did. Today, we are hiring people who don't necessarily have teaching licenses, but have a history or a social studies degree and helping them get that license. It used to be, if you had a FIED teacher position open, you'd get 25, 30 applicants for that. Not anymore. Same situation. It is harder and harder to not only find a plethora of candidates, but good quality candidates, or in some cases, anybody at all. And so I can remember a Spanish vacancy I had when I was a principal back 7, 8 years ago. Could not find a teacher that could speak Spanish. And so my students had to take an online class, and it's a good thing I had a great librarian who watched those students as they took an online class. And I got a lot of grief for that, but I could not find anybody. And I share that with you because it's important that our staff, that our wages for our staff, our compensation is competitive so that we do fill these vacancies and we fill them with good quality educators. I know there are tough times, and some people might say, well, when it's tough, we don't have cost of living increases. The market is saying if we don't provide those cost of living increases, we are not going to fill the classrooms with the people that our kids deserve. Healthcare costs continue to rise. I think we all understand this in our lives. This is a problem that's beyond just Racine or in our area. I highlight the transportation costs, our operational costs for transportation. I highlight transportation because this is an example where the contracts that we have don't necessarily come in at inflationary rates. So if inflation is 3.8%, or what was it last year, where's Jeff? 4% or so. Transportation costs come in at 5%. So as we look at buying products, if it's curriculum or transportation or whatever it is, it doesn't mean that those companies are charging an inflationary rate. Most of the time it's more. It's never less. It's never less than inflation. You go to this grocery store and buy those bags of Doritos. My God, my kids eat so many Doritos. I know how much those have gone up in the last 5 years. It's not been at the level of inflation. It's been much more than that. So we are facing costs that go above inflation. Yet what we're trying to at least work with within our community is an inflationary level increase. And then the last point I have on here is unfunded state and federal mandates. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Unfunded state mandate, one that we're grappling with right now, has to do with Act 20 and the initiative by the state of Wisconsin to ensure that we are all using the science of reading curriculum and that we are making sure that our kids are leaving third grade as readers. And we love that and embrace that. And in fact, we're doing that before the state said you should do that. But the state has included some requirements in terms of curriculum and training and with our individual students that have costs to them. And this Act 20 included $50 million for districts in the state of Wisconsin to utilize supports to get this Act 20 up and running. Well, Act 20 got up and running, but the money didn't come. They're fighting over whether or not to give us the money. It's endless. I've talked to legislators on both sides of the political aisle. We aren't getting that money right now. So what do? Well, our kids need to read. We are going to pursue this, so it comes out of our budget. Federal mandates. There's a lot of news on this right now. We are living in a world of uncertainty as to whether or not our federal funds will show up in the future, ranging from Title, which includes supports for students who need interventions in reading and math, which includes support for teachers working with students who are acquiring English skills, speaking skills, and reading skills. We have funds that provide a breakfast and a lunch for our children. That's federal funds. Now, nobody is saying right now that we're not going to have those. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but there's a lot of uncertainty, as I think many of you follow the news, about anything related to federal dollars. So we don't know how this could impact us, but we are believing that it will be a negative impact in some time. So looking to next school year, we are at about a $24 million deficit for next year. And this is where I don't think there's any way to make efficiencies and make additional cuts that are not going to affect our ability to continue that momentum. We're going to have impacts that will hurt our youngest children, all of our students, in one way or the other. If I could still finagle it out of our budget, I wouldn't spend months of doing presentations and doing all of this. This has to happen for our students. It will impact them if we don't receive this money. So what will it mean? Higher class sizes. It'll mean significantly more staffing cuts. It will affect that compensation that we talked about, and program reductions. There are supports, there are staff that make those academies work that we cannot afford going forward over the next 5 years as I look down the road over the next 5 years. with this type of gap. And here's sort of graphically looking at our deficit forecast. 24, 30, 35, 42, $45 million deficits over the next 5 years. As a superintendent of 15,500 students that we have here, I cannot possibly waltz into the next school year and continue to cut with inside the system and then come out and tell everybody we're going to do better things and greater things are going to happen. I have to go and do this now. I need the investment from our community to support that good work. We cannot affect our youngest kids. We cannot affect their children because they are our community. They are our future. This is too great. If this was 2, 4, 5, whatever, we'll figure it out. I can't figure this out. It's past that point. So, a lot of discussion about what to do. We thought about doing some bigger and grander plans. We're going to go out to the community. We thought, well, maybe we should provide a vision of some great things that we could do. And I'd love to do that. But that costs more. And so what we decided to do is to come up with a number that will help us at least continue the good work that we're doing right now, while being as modest on the taxpayers as we possibly can. Nobody wants to pay more taxes, and I'm a taxpayer here in the community as well. We want to be mindful of that. We're mindful of the fact that there are uncertainties, and we're always concerned about our costs. So we wanted to land at a spot that was most likely to be reasonable for people to manage and to handle. The impact would be approximately $35 increase on your property taxes per $100,000 of your property value. So if you had a $200,000 property value home, it would go up $70 next year, $70. And then what we did remember I showed you at the beginning all of those different numbers instead of being the same number. We did that intentionally because by changing the numbers each year a little bit, it allows us to go up $35 and then stay approximately flat over the next 5 years. So we're not going to go, it's $35 next year, and then surprise, it's $250 the year after, and it goes up and down and whatever. We want it to be honest and predictable to everyone that it is a $35 increase, and it stays that way approximately within a little bit. There's always a little bit of factor that we are out of control. But flat over the next 5 years. A little illustration here. Here's the 35 right there. This is the rest of the levy. So some people, and rightfully so, ask a great question. Hey, we just passed a referendum a few years ago. What happened to all that money? Why don't you use that? The answer to that is, we can't. It is a legally binding referendum to facilities. We couldn't touch it if we wanted to. And let's review and remind ourselves what a great investment this was and is. This community had very old buildings. I was at Jefferson Lighthouse. Great reputation, great school. That building opened in 1899. It smells. It's hot. It has stairs all over the place. The student broke their leg, which it happens sometimes. They sat down in the main office with me. They couldn't even get anywhere else. We have old buildings. We have a building that Abraham Lincoln maybe stopped by because he would have been president when it was open. The buildings here are aging, and they're not aging well. All of them. So this community wonderfully invested in the facilities, and every single school that we have for our children right now is either being remodeled, like the one you're in right now, or rebuilt entirely. There's a picture of the gym, JA's gym right down here. You're going to get a tour here in a little bit and check out the new additions as well as all of the new remodels. And then there's a picture up there of Schulte that I went out and took a walk through about, I don't know, that's been about a month ago now. The drywall is not in, but it's absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous school. Red Apple is under construction right now. Beautiful place. You know, when kids come to school and it is vibrant and the facility is modern, it says, this is an important place. The community says this is an important place to be. I'm special. This is an important place. Walking into old buildings that smell and are not well kept up makes you kind of feel like I'm just hanging out here while, you know, mom and dad are going to work or something. Beautiful buildings, and it's done wonders for a lot of our kids as well as the communities that they live in. I mean, I live by that Schulte school. That is going to help. When somebody drives their car, or they got a job at Microsoft or something, and they're looking into our community, looking for a place to buy a home, and they see that school being constructed there, they have got to be, what is up with that? What a beautiful school. You drive by this school right here. This looks like we take our education serious. So that investment was worth it, and we're still remodeling and rebuilding our schools. It's amazing to me in 2025 that we have schools that don't have air conditioning in them. We're all air conditioned here now, but for the longest time, my entire teaching career and principal career, no air conditioning. You go anywhere else in the day, you're going to run into air conditioning, and yet the most important thing these kids can do is learn, and we put them in situations where it's very, very distracting on them. This referendum is solving that. Now, we want to make sure what they experience inside those classrooms in those schools lives up to the building that they're in. And we need these resources, this investment that I'm talking about tonight, to get us there. So, once again, we want to continue that momentum that I talked about with a laser focus on our youngest 4K through grade 3. We want them leaving grade 3 being able to read. They need to be readers. We want to continue this momentum that we have right now and build on that. We want to continue to lead the state in the top 5% in the number of transcripted credits earned and students earning industry-recognized certifications through the youth apprenticeship model I talked about. So we lead the state in getting our kids from high school into that next part of their lives. That's huge. It is very easy to lose teens at that age to bad things. We help them get to that next spot. We didn't do a very good job of that 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or certainly when I was in high school, for sure. And continue to build on that report card momentum that we have in Racine. Not all the school districts in this county have been going up in the state report card. In fact, many of them have gone down. Some of the schools that some of our children go out to have sinking report cards, not Racine Unified. We're moving in the right direction. This is a good time to invest in this school district. And we want to continue to do that with the help of the community. All right, that is my presentation, and we have time for some questions.
We've got them.
And we've got them, all right.
I have some parent leaders help read them to you, Sora.
All right, excellent.
And they're coming in from online too. Everybody knows that.
Our first one is, are there any other income sources that can cover the cost of the referendum?
Yeah, you do.
The question was, are there any other income sources that can cover these costs that we have right now? That we can have? You know, the public school system is completely reliant upon tax dollars that come from the state and from local taxes. And so there really is no other types of fundraising or any of those sorts of things that we do. It's a nonprofit situation, and we receive our funds solely from the state and local taxpayers.
Next question. What is the largest cause of the budget shortfall, state funding, and rising costs?
Okay, I'm just gonna make, let me.
Yep, go ahead. That was a big question.
Yeah, largest cost of the budget shortfall. So, I guess this would, the cause is basically that distance between inflation and the revenue, the dollars that we receive from our state government. That's the cause. That's, as I outlined in that graphic, and you saw that 3,300 per pupil distance. So you go back in time, that was equal. And so you probably hear about school systems struggling for a long time. And really what we've done in Racine Unified has been to balance that budget being as efficient as we possibly can over time. We've also had some enrollment decline. But as enrollment declines, we also make adjustments in our staffing as well to keep up with that.
And there was a question too on there.
Yeah.
If we have a okay, sorry, 1 second. If we have a $20 million shortfall, why are we planning for some years to be 30, 40, 50 million?
Mm-hmm. So a couple things happen there that you see that those dollar amounts increase. That's basically inflation. That's basically the rise. That's the gap that continues. Let me get back to that slide. This one. So as we forecast out, you saw, you see this gap. This just continues to grow. And the other thing is, to keep that flat $35 for 5 years in a row, we played with the numbers a little bit. So in the first year, for example, we're asking for 26 million, but our deficit's only 24. And we'll hold that 2 million and use it the following year when we are under drawing from the referendum is lower. So we kind of play with that because we wanted to be able to tell you and for you to be able to plan for a consistent tax levy each year.
Okay. Our next is, please explain all possible cuts. Academies, extracurricular, or closing a pool.
Okay, all possible cuts. So I'm gonna talk for Danny for a second. We have Danny is the principal here. Mr. Hernandez, sorry, Danny Dooney. We ask our principals every year to come in and do staffing. We have a budget for them, and they look at their enrollments, and we provide resources based on what the state has given us, and he then staffs the building. He will come to the meeting this time around. He hasn't already had it. It's coming. And the number, the dollar amount that he has to staff his building will be less. It may be 10%, let's say, less than it was before. And he has to figure out, same amount of students approximately, how to provide, meet his goals in this school with less resources. So continue to be that challenge for somebody like Danny as a principal. And so all of the things that we do in Unified, less and less choices for kids to go to choose in their high schools, larger class sizes because he's going to have less teachers but the same amount of kids. If it affects, it'll affect compensation. So these 65% of the school districts in the state that did pass referendum are going to be able to offer competitive salaries for their educational staff. We will lose some of our staff to those districts. Those districts will have the opportunity to pick staff that we won't necessarily have that same opportunity should we not pass this. So everything gets affected. We aren't going to, across the board, just simply cut athletics or close something specifically. We are going to see a further and further shrinking of our availability to provide programming and teachers for our students.
Okay, next question. What investments will be made into safety and security since we already have metal detectors and SROs?
Yeah, so I talked about security in here. Again, this referendum, in the end, is to continue the budget that we have right now. We are not asking our community to give us an additional amount so we can do more. What we're asking for is to be able to maintain what we have right now, adjusting for inflation, so that continues to keep our safety staff, our student advocates, our evolve system. If we don't have those resources, we have to begin to take those back and just have students walk in the building as we did when perhaps many of us were going to school. These staff are critical in helping our kids stay focused. It's not a matter of adding them, it's a matter of we don't want to subtract them. We could have asked for a referendum that was adding, and we talked about that, and we thought about that. But we had just gone to a referendum 5 years ago, and we so desperately need this referendum to pass that we did not want to choose a number that was going to be something the taxpayers didn't feel like they could manage.
Are administrative salaries included in referendum?
Yeah, administrative salaries, all staff that work in the district are included in this. This is a total budget.
How do I get involved to support the Yes campaign?
Yes, campaign is here. In fact, I will hold a little bit and I'll get back and have you guys speak, okay?
Any chance of stopping state funding or voucher schools?
That would be a great question for our local politicians. I certainly have thoughts on that, but that's not necessarily a role that I can play at this point in time. But I think that's a great question for our local politicians because vouchers do impact our budget and have impacted Racine Unified's budget over the last many years and have contributed some of this. But that is for the politicians to hear from you about.
Would there be any additional funding to special education?
So that question, here, I'll kind of reiterate, this referendum is to maintain the current budget allocations that we have today. So I want to be really clear, this referendum does not solve some of the many problems that public education faces with funding. We did not go for a referendum that asks to solve that because that dollar amount would be significantly more and I think much less likely to be supported by our community at this time. So we're asking for a dollar amount that simply allows us to stay where we're at right now. However, again, I would go to the politicians on this, but I will tell you the governor has proposed a budget that includes increases to funding for special education, as well as many other aspects of public education. And so I think that is a direction that question can go to, but it's not specifically outlined in this referendum.
I just wanted to, can I cut in? If anybody has questions that they've thought of, I know a lot of people have questions as they came in. If you have additional questions, just raise your hand, I'll get you a card.
The next question, why not cut from admins? Why does it have to be cut from teachers?
Yeah, so it's cuts are from everyone. Last year, the $34 million budget deficit, I don't have the diagram up here, but the last year, the $34 million, we took a higher percentage of administration in cuts than we did teachers. I think they may have been the lowest or the second lowest of the employee groups. Administrators are our principals. They are, most of our administration is principals and assistant principals that are there in the buildings and support staff that work with our teachers to help them be the best that they can be. So they're very, very important as well, but they also took a cut and it was a higher percentage than the rest of our staff.
All right, so your last one is passing the referendum protect the social media guy?
That is really important. long as he's willing to stay, I think he's in good shape.
All right.
Have you been out again? Dennis?
No. Oh, kind of.
Any questions from online or
Anyone
anything?
else, though, we have been feeding the online questions here too. Anyone else have questions?
So I just want to know if people are here from the Yes campaign, because I'd like to meet them.
I think it's a perfect segue to have me introduce them to come on up. But would you guys take the mic for a moment? And I'll take the mic back. Thank you all for being here. My name is Andrew Ellisman. I am the campaign manager for the Vote Yes for Our Kids campaign committee. We've been out working the last couple months, setting up, getting out in the community, talking with folks about the campaign that's come out here, raising awareness. For those of you who have learned about this campaign, if you're interested in going out in the community, talking with your neighbors about the pressing issues that are facing us with this campaign, the need to vote yes and secure this funding for our kids, I have some sign-up sheets for you to signing up. We'd love to have you. We have various activities like door knocking out in the community, participating in phone banks, postcard writing, things like that. So if you are interested in participating in the campaign, please come see me afterwards. We would love to talk to you. And thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
And yard signs too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Got the yard sign sign up, and we've got them all set up in the community. So we would love to get more yard signs out as well.
Where are the yard signs? Yeah, where are they? Where can we get a yard sign if we need one?
Yeah, signs. Yeah. I know that the RU headquarters, they've got some yard signs set up there. They might be in the process of still constructing some of them, but I know that they've got them at the RU headquarters. So
And that building is located where?
1201 West Boulevard, Racine.
You say that one more time?
1201 West Boulevard in Racine.
1201 West Boulevard in Racine. So if you want one, that's the best you get. Thank you. Any questions? So, again, Ms. Boyer pointed out very well, if you have anybody that you are in your circles that you believe needs more information that either we could come and speak to or provide an answer to a question that they may have, contact us. Yeah, if you want to speak to us here, if you want to email my office, please do so. We would be happy. We want to make sure that information is available to everybody. We want to be completely forthcoming and transparent about everything that we're doing here. And we want any questions to be had.
Where will this live stream be held
It's
at?
on our Facebook
Yep.
page.
Facebook?
Yep.
Yeah, we have a podcast that I did. I think it runs about 20 minutes or so. It kind of covers a lot of what I just talked about. There's lots of information on our website as well. So.
Do you see ambassadors?
Yes, so we can get over to, we have our student ambassadors here. We have a tour that we're going to do. Does somebody want to come and introduce the individuals and set up the tour and all that? All right.
So my name is Jaden George. I go to Racine Case High School. I'm an ambassador as well as I play football, track. I'm part of Link Crew, DECA, and a few other things. And so I'm just up here to talk about a few things that I did in high school that the Academies of Racine have helped me do. So I'm currently a youth apprentice for RUSD. I work in the central headquarters with Mr. Biaski, with all these guys over here. I work with all of them. And so there, I learned how to write grants, I write newsletters, I help with the Facebook pages, I get quotes, I learned how to do all things I'm going to be doing in my future. As well as in school, I've gotten a large amount of certifications through Microsoft and other things. I've gone on field trips and site visits such as the Treasury, Goodwill Industries, and a few other places. We've also partnered with the Fisher Manufacturing Company and RayMat to do a student-led and completely ran company. So from every aspect of the company, it's student ran, so I'm the CEO of that company, and we're learning how to manufacture and make peppermills to sell us to the public. We'll be meeting with the Raymac board coming up in April to propose a product. Another thing is dual credit opportunities. I have over 20 dual credits going into college already, and I have opportunities to even gain more throughout multiple colleges. And then after high school, I'll be going into the business and marketing degree at Carthage College, which is the current pathway in that case, where it helped me realize what I want to do in my future.
I'm a senior as well at Case High School. So me and Jaden, we have very similar opportunities at Case. We're both in the business pathway. So like you mentioned before, the dual credit opportunities, as well as like the off-campus opportunities, visiting work sites, job sites, stuff like that. And being an ambassador, I feel like I've grown very knowledgeable about the different pathways that we offer at Case. And I can assure you that there is something for every student, no matter what. I think everybody finds their certain niche kind of while they're there. And it is definitely just a place where you feel like you belong. There's something for you to do. There's structure in your day. I mean, all 4 years of my high school career, I kind of had the same, I go every day and I work on the same things. And I feel like I can say I've become very knowledgeable in the business aspect. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
My name is Christina Sindahogi. I'm a sophomore at Horlick High School. I went to Jersted from 6th through 8th grade. I am in the Business and Culinary Arts Department studying business for Horlick. I recently started taking a few college classes to get 3 certifications in PowerPoint and marketing and a few other aspects of it. I haven't really gotten to start a youth apprenticeship, which I am very excited to start because I started talking to a counselor about that. But in my experience of being in RUSD schools, it's really helped me learn and grow with my disabilities that I have had or my struggles. And I think I am very career ready, and I know what colleges I want to go to. So.
All right. Yes. We're going to head into our tour phase of the evening, check out one of our latest and greatest buildings here. And so we have a couple of tour guides, and we're going to head out the door over there and get that started. So thank you all for hearing this tonight, and appreciate you spending your evening with me.